Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news on this Monday morning. And it's been a difficult weekend for Manchester United. And the main talking point that we're going to be discussing today is Erik ten Hag and his future at Manchester United. And what does it mean for him and the club? Big speculations coming out over the last few days that his time is up. Ineos are backing him. There's players coming out. Again, we're seeing disruption in the dressing room. Players taking to social media, questioning Erik ten Hag. So we're going to dive deep into it, and I want to get your opinions on it as well. So please make sure you do get into the comments and let me know what you think. We're going to be talking about Garnacho, obviously liking some tweets in relation to criticism of Erik ten Hag. We're going to be talking about Ahmad. He's been taken to Instagram about his frustrations as well, potentially. I'm going to look at, obviously, Erik ten Hag as well and his future. There's been talks about him and Anthony having a falling out as well, so we'll talk about all of that as always. But before that, guys, please do smash a like on the video. Hit subscribe if you are new to the channel as well. And as always, like I said, get your comments into the comment section below. But look, it's been a difficult week for Manchester United and Erik ten Hag specifically. A draw to Bournemouth, and to be honest with you, a game that we probably should have lost. Now, I wasn't around for it. Usually we do our live watch-alongs for it, but I couldn't do one. But look, it was a very, very disappointing game and a disappointing performance again from Manchester United. And heavy criticism coming out in relation to Erik ten Hag and the way he's setting the team up and not getting the best out of the team and so on and so forth. And look, to be honest, I can understand where the criticism is coming from. And look, the title of the video is Erik ten Hag Stay or Go, and everybody has a different opinion on it. I am still, Erik ten Hag should stay. And I'll go through the reasons for that in the next few minutes. But I think, it's very disappointing to see week in, week out, such poor performances out of Manchester United. We are on course to have our worst Premier League season ever, I think. Of course, when that happens, there is going to be criticism on the manager. And I can understand. And I can understand fans' frustrations as well. We can't always be supportive, especially when you're seeing consistently bad performances. It would be a different story if it was, 2 or 3 good performances here, then a bad performance, and there was more good than bad. But we're seeing it the opposite way around, and it's more bad than good. Now, I am 100% still Erik ten Hag should be given time. And I'm quite disappointed to see over the last 2 weeks especially, the mainstream media and the main pundits that we look at Manchester United on Sky Sports are Gary Neville and Roy Keane. And for months, and I'm talking 6, 7, 8 months, there was terrible, consistently bad performances put in when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was manager, and there was nothing but support from, and I understand they were his former teammates, Where is that same support for Erik ten Hag now? The reason why I'm Erik ten Hag and why I think Erik ten Hag should get more time is because we're seeing the same things happening under the same managers for the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. It's continuing to happen. And we have the same core group of players that have been involved in minimum 3 managers now. Minimum 3 managers. I can understand that, the performance levels haven't been great. And I do have some criticism for Erik ten Hag. Absolutely I do. I do think he should be getting more out of the players that we've got. I absolutely do. However, we've seen these players on countless occasions just throw in the towel. Just throw it in. Throw in the towel. I'm not playing for this manager anymore. I don't like his tactics. I don't like his the way he sets up. I don't like, the fact that he's not playing me in a certain position or for a certain amount of time. And that's it. They just throw in the towel. We've seen it time after time. It happened with Rangnick. It happened with Solskjaer. It happened with Mourinho. And it happened with Louis van Gaal. And, we're seeing the same core group of players. Now, if we look at, and this is my I understand the argument that he should be getting more out of these players, okay? But if we look at the group of players that played for Manchester United on the weekend, I understand injuries are not an excuse now. They're not, because we're basically only missing two key players, Lisandro Martinez and Luke Shaw. They're the only two key players that we're missing. So I completely understand. I was saying for a long time throughout the season that injuries play a massive role. They do. However, now that's not the case. Now, have we got a hangover from poor performances by having players out? Maybe that could be the case. We've had a lot of players out, which may have contributed to bad performances, which can lead to a drop in morale, which, can snowball. But that can't be an excuse anymore to go out and put in, a bad performance as a team. But if we look at, the starting 11 that played, and everybody that played on the weekend, Andre Onana, for example, in the goal, has been one of our best players, especially in the second half of the season. Had a rough time at the start, but ever since the turn of the year, he's been absolutely phenomenal. Diogo Dalot has been probably our best player, and he's one that you could very rarely criticise. He has had some bad performances, and he is a player of previous managers, but his passion, his desire, and you can see the hunger that he has. I take him out of that category of players that are not trying. Absolutely. Willie Camboal is a young player, so, you can give him a pass. He's learning his trade. Harry Maguire is not good enough. Absolutely 100% not good enough. Erik ten Hag wanted to get rid of him last summer, and he decided to stay because his wages were so good and he wanted to. Now, he has had a decent season, but he's not good enough. End of story. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, while I do like him as a 1v1 defender, look, I don't think he's up to the standards that we need to get back to challenging for the top trophies. I think that's quite clear. However, I don't put him in the bracket of a player who would be, negative in the dressing room. Absolutely no way. Casemiro has literally fallen off the edge of a cliff since the end of last season. 100%. I cannot believe, and I don't think I've ever seen such a downturn in somebody's performance levels, and he is literally just completely and utterly fell off a cliff, and it's time to move him on. Kobbie Mainoo, again, is a young player, probably one of the highlights of our season, even though he was injured for an awful lot of the start of it. He's been our best player, I would say, in the second half of the season. Absolutely fantastic. Bruno Fernandes has had a very poor season by his high standards. Now, he was the main reason why we got anything out of that game on the weekend against Bournemouth. I thought he was one of our better players. Even though I didn't see the game in its entirety, watching the extended highlights, I thought Bruno was, and obviously he got the goals. Alejandro Garnacho, we seen his disappointment on the weekend, and I just worry that he could be one of the players that gets poisoned by the negative atmosphere in the dressing room that's been going on for far too long there. Because he is certainly a player and a star for the future. And we'll get on to Garnacho in a minute. We'll talk about him specifically. Marcus Rashford, again, poor performance. Very naive play, getting the ball, running into dead ends, running into 3 or 4 players, very easy to defend against, and offers you nothing, really. I think it's time for Marcus Rashford to be moved on. And Rasmus Højlund has been going through a very, very bad patch. I think since he came back from his injury, there's been stats put out that he's only had 1 shot on target. Now, I am 100% behind Rasmus Højlund. And he is going to be, I have no doubt, a very good player for Manchester United in the future. And I do understand that there is, an argument there that he's not getting supply, and that's 100% understandable. But you do have to make some of your own look as well. And, he's dropping out an awful lot and, looking for the ball deep because it's not coming into him. Maybe you just have to be a little bit more patient, bide your time, try and play off the shoulder, look for balls in over the top. But again, that remains to be seen. Players that come on then, you're looking at Amad Diallo, Mason Mount. I don't know what the story is with Mason Mount. I mean, 55 million we paid for him and he can't get a smell of a game. So my point being here, more than anything else, is that the majority of the players that we've got are not good enough, and they are not good enough, regardless of whether this is our first 11 or not. So I can understand that while Erik ten Hag should be getting more out of his squad, he hasn't got a lot of quality to work with. He really hasn't. You know, somebody, I was watching a TikTok yesterday where they go through every player United have signed since Ferguson left, and it's scary, the lack of quality to the players that Manchester United have actually signed. The lack of quality is frightening. And that has continued all the way through. I think there's been maybe 4, probably 5 real quality signings since Alex Ferguson left. I think you could put Bruno Fernandes in there. I think you could put Lisandro Martinez in there. I think on the border, Rasmus Højlund, because I think he'll be a good one for the future. You could put him in there. I think Ander Herrera certainly goes into that category as well. And then maybe Andre Onana. But again, he's got, he needs to have the good performances he's having on a continued basis over the next 3 or 4 years. So when we look at, say, the top 5 players, 3 of them have come from Erik ten Hag signings, you would probably say. And I think, that is a tick in the Erik ten Hag in category. Yeah, you would say. Let's see what people are saying in the chat here as well. Get your comments in as always, guys. Michael wants Erik ten Hag out. Danny says Bournemouth outplayed us all game. They deserve nothing but to win. But we got 2 lucky undeserved goals that we didn't deserve. We didn't deserve anything from the game. Neverworld says if he's to go with a dressing room that have underperformed for the levels this club demands all fucking season, then I want Garnacho and Diallo out the door with him. Take the socials instead of playing. Absolutely. Michael says, if Manchester United decide to sack Erik ten Hag, who will replace him as manager? Well, that's the question. There is a big argument there, Michael, that Manchester United do not have too many options to replace Erik ten Hag with, and that if it was somebody else that was managing United at the moment and we were getting rid of him, we would be looking at somebody like Erik ten Hag. So you also have to take into consideration as well that there are probably better prospects than Manchester United at the moment that will be looking for managers in the summer. You're talking about Liverpool, you're talking about Barcelona, you're talking about Bayern Munich, all looking for managers in the summer. And if you want to go and sign a top manager and them options are available as well, they're going to look at Manchester United and go, no, I think I've got better options here. If somebody like a Liverpool or a Bayern Munich or a Barcelona come in for that same said manager. So I think that's another reason why you could potentially keep Erik ten Hag. Neverwhere says they'd rather like tweets or post stories on Insta than turn their game around. Get this squad out. Absolutely, absolute content creators. I agree with you. I hate all of this modern. You do not see this with other players, with other squads. You don't see it with other teams. You do not see it in Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, Newcastle. You do not see players taking to social media in a negative way. And you see it all the time at United. Danny says, I know you won't agree with me, but in my opinion, Erik ten Hag is not the man for Manchester United. He's well and truly out of his depth. Danny, that's completely understandable, and I will never give out to somebody for having a different opinion than me. And that's why, that's what we try and do here. Everybody is entitled to their opinion, and it's okay if we disagree. I just am sick of the same mentality players having the same effect on the dressing room, manager after manager. And I think Erik ten Hag has, in his first couple of seasons, done well to try and weed out some of the negativity in there. Ronaldo was negative, gone. Sancho was negative, gone. Martial, see you later, not playing you. Taking the captaincy and giving it to Bruno Fernandes. All of these subtle little tells are Erik ten Hag's way of trying to cleanse that dressing room. He's still got a big job to do because we know how bad that dressing room has been over the last 3, 4, 5 years in terms of player power and in terms of throwing managers under the bus. And I don't want Erik ten Hag to be another one. I would rather Erik ten Hag see out his contract. He's got 1 year left after this season. I would rather him see out his contract and move on some of them frauds within the dressing room, and let's see what happens next season. We have nothing left to lose. We have got nothing left to lose other than 12 months. That's all we have left to lose. Look at where we were this time last year. We were on cloud 9. We were in the Champions League. We were after winning a Carabao Cup, and we were in an FA Cup final. Erik ten Hag was the man. And that speech he gave in the last game of the season in Old Trafford before we went and played the FA Cup final, the whole of the Manchester United fan base were like, this man is the one. He is the one. Now, what has happened in this season, We've seen the same thing that happens every season under every new manager. Season 2, players take their foot off the pedal, take their foot off the gas, and start putting in subpar performances. And what happens? The manager gets sacked. Same thing all the time. New manager in, new manager bounce, players play well, they want to get into the team. Second season, bullshit, subpar performances. I don't like the manager's tactics. I've fallen out with him here. He's not playing me enough. He's playing me in the wrong position. Social media, FC. Manager gets sacked. We start it again. And we're seeing it. I cannot understand why people who are so adamant, and you're entitled to your opinions, I can't understand why people are so adamant that Erik ten Hag needs to go. We need to get rid of large parts of this squad before we start looking at replacing a new manager there. That's my opinion. You're entitled to disagree with me, and I respect your opinion. That's no problem. But Erik ten Hag needs to, and Manchester United in general, need to get rid of these fucking negative players within the squad. Because I think if we can do that and build a proper mentality and a proper, kind of mindset within that squad and in that dressing room, I think we'll be a lot more successful regardless of who the manager is. But again, like I said, that's just my opinion, and people are entitled to want Erik ten Hag out if they want. That's no problem. Neverworth says, so turns out we need to shift the dead weight and also shift the social influences. Yeah, so look, let's get on to it. We'll talk about, Garnacho first and foremost. Let me zoom in so you guys can see it. Obviously, look, Erik ten Hag was asked why he substituted Alejandro Garnacho on the weekend, which, by the way, he is fucking well within his rights to do if he wants to do so. Okay, I'll get that out there first. He said, I think we had to repair over the right side. We didn't play well. The spaces were there in possession. We had to bring a sub there. Garnacho was during the week not training. Only yesterday, we thought bring some energy and bring some more quality. Quality in the sense of cooperation and togetherness on that right-hand side. So Garnacho didn't have the best of games, guys. I'll be quite clear with that. Now, again, I would say Erik ten Hag is entitled to bring off who he wants. I do disagree in a way that I think Rashford probably was having a worse game than Garnacho. But again, it's the manager's decision. If he decides Garnacho is the one to be taken off, then fair enough. Garnacho is a young player. It's only his first full season, you would have to say. He had his breakthrough season last year, and this is his first full season. So, look, that was the response that Erik ten Hag gave. Subsequently, we know what happened then. A couple of tweets by Mark Goldbridge that Garnacho liked on social media, basically criticising the manager. I don't agree with what Mark Goldbridge said. I think it's manager is entitled to do that. Of course, Mark Goldbridge is entitled to have his opinion. Of course he is, like everyone else is. Like, I'm entitled to disagree with him. I'm not disagreeing with the sake of it. The manager was asked a question. He gave the answer that he gave. I think Garnacho did give the ball away for the first goal, and we know how to the point and straightforward Erik ten Hag is as a manager. He very rarely comes out and doesn't say it like it is, and he tends to do that. I think to come out and criticise Erik ten Hag for throwing players under the bus, when week in, week out, he comes out and praises players and praises his squad, even though they're putting in subpar performances, I think is quite, I think is quite kind of foolish to say. I have to say, like coming out and asked why he's changing the right hand side and substituting Garnacho. And Ten Hag subsequently saying, well, look, Garnacho gave the ball away for the first goal, blah, blah, blah. He's been nothing but supportive. And a couple of pictures here, we see why. Here's one, here's two, here's three. All different games where Erik ten Hag has been supporting Alejandro Garnacho. So I think for the majority of United fans that have come out and supported Garnacho and liking a tweet, I think is quite naive. And I think it's quite, it's fans with sharp memories, And again, we're talking about Erik ten Hag out and this and that. Again, I go back to what we've said. This time last year, Erik ten Hag was the man. He was the one that was going to take us forward. And, you know, Garnacho coming out and liking a tweet that subsequently slating the manager is why and is what concerns me. Like I've said a few minutes ago, I am worried that the negativity within this Manchester United squad and the social media FC and the player power is starting to corrupt again some of these young players coming in. Alejandro Garnacho, you know, you would hope that the likes of Kobbie Mainoo was not going to follow suit. I don't think he would. He looks like he's got a head on his shoulders, in fairness. But we're seeing it. We're seeing that negativity within the squad transfer itself to some of the younger players. We've seen in the past players coming out and slating previous managers, whether it be within the media, whether it would be in social media, so on and so forth. And them players are clearly still in the dressing room. They're clearly still in the dressing room because we're seeing the young players being corrupted by the same negativity, by the same player power, by the same social media FC. And that's why we're seeing the likes of Garnacho taking to social media now and liking negative tweets against the manager. We're seeing Ahmad coming out with the closed mouth emoji. Who do these players think they are? They think they're bigger than the manager. They think they're bigger than the club. And I'm not for this. And that's why I am still supportive of Erik ten Hag. I think we need to clear that negativity within the dressing room. We've been talking about it now for 6 years. And then there's a lot of them players that are still within that dressing room that have a negative influence on the team, that have a negative influence on the manager, and it's starting to filter down to the next generation. And if we do not get rid of them, we're going to continue to have this for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. And it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. It's not complicated. It's not complicated at all. We need to clear that squad out. Pure and simple. Let's see. Danny says Erik ten Hag needs to stop playing favourites in all the to all the wrong players like Rashford, but he needs to stop falling out with the wrong players as well. He's not helping himself. Well, he's not falling out with anybody, Danny. Players are falling out with him because players cannot in any way, shape or form, you know, these young fucking soft mentality players cannot take one small bit of criticism. Look at Jadon Sancho. Erik ten Hag was asked one question on why he wasn't in the squad because he didn't train good enough this week and he threw everything out of the pram. All of his ties out of the pram, and we see now that he's, you know, gone back to mediocrity, you know, with Borussia Dortmund. Easy says, from South Africa, I love this club, but there is nothing good coming from this team, but I love United 100%. Neverworld says, where's the negativity coming from? Who's the most negative player in the dressing room in the last few seasons? I think it's quite clear, without even having to answer that question, Neverworld. I think it's quite an easy one to answer. Easy says, Rashford does nothing for the team this season. Why is he playing 90 minutes? I agree. There are areas that Erik ten Hag is not helping himself. I completely agree. But that is not enough to be sacking the manager. Erik ten Hag has not changed his way of playing since he came in as manager. It worked last year. What has changed this year? The same players have done the same thing. They've just put in subpar performances, and now they're coming out giving out about the manager because they're not getting the results that they want because of their subpar performances. And now the manager's getting thrown under the bus again. It's happened, lads. Open your eyes. It's been happening for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. This is the 4th manager it's happened to now. Open your eyes. The manager has made mistakes. This squad needs to be gutted and cleared out. You know what I mean? Before we talk about changing managers again. It's so clear to see. It's so clear to see. The same thing is happening week after week, season after season, manager after manager, and it's tiring. It's tiring. I'm sick of these same players doing the same things to different managers. Clear that squad. Because like I said, we're now seeing some of the negativity filtering down to the young players like Ahmad and Garnacho, and I'm sick of it. We need to clear that squad out. Let's see. Party Pooper says they are just immature kids. We need men on this team, not boys. Absolutely. Neverworld says if you don't train well, you don't play well. It's that simple. If you don't like it, then off you pop. Tony says Erik ten Hag should stop playing Marcus Rashford. Yeah, and again, that goes back to what I'm saying. He's not helping himself at all. He's not helping himself. But I don't know what's going on in the background there, Tony. Does Marcus Rashford have something within his new contract that says he has to play a certain amount of minutes? I don't know. But again, that would be something that's on the club, not Erik ten Hag. Easy says, Ten Hag, they have to clear out this locker room. Really, you cannot blame the manager. This is the same thing going on for years, and that's the truth. Well, look, the other player that we've seen come out, and again with these subtle little tells against the manager, is Ahmad. Now, he's fallen into another category now of a player that I'm starting to dislike, and it's coming down. It's coming very quickly. 3-4 weeks ago, no, a little bit more, maybe 6 weeks ago, we were saying it's time for Ahmad to get some game time now. We want to see him come in. We want to get him some game time. And he did score that goal against Liverpool. Fantastic. He came on the other day as a substitute with 25 minutes to go. Let me see, when did he come on? He came on, what am I saying? He came on at half-time. He done nothing. He done absolutely nothing. So for Ahmad to be coming out on social media with a closed mouth emoji, we all know what it means. We all know that, he wants to give out about something, and he wants to give out about his game time, and he wants to give out maybe about the manager and not being played and so on and so forth. He scored a great goal against Liverpool, got sent off, got suspended, picked up a little bit of an injury as well. He's been injured for the majority of the season. He comes on against Bournemouth, does absolutely nothing, and then thinks he can go out onto social media and put up a closed mouth emoji, trying to blame everybody else. He's fallen into a category of player now at Manchester United that I'm going to start to dislike very, very quickly if he continues this nonsense. He's a player that has yet to prove himself at Manchester United, went to Sunderland and done really, really well, okay, in a lower league, and has done absolutely nothing at Manchester United. And let's not kid ourselves here. He has had game time, not an awful lot, but he's had game time under Erik ten Hag, and he has had game time under previous managers as well. He's done nothing so far. So why don't, instead of putting your closed mouth emoji up, why don't you put the fist emoji up and say, I'm going to get to work and I'm going to train, I'm going to work my way into this team. And when I do get onto the pitch, I'm maybe going to score a goal or two, or get an assist or put in some real consistent performances. Because we haven't seen that so far from you. But again, this is the mentality that we're dealing with at Manchester United at the moment. And it's what's so frustrating as being a Manchester United fan. We're seeing these players come in that have done nothing for Manchester United so far. And they think they've got the God-given right to give out about a manager who's paid to make big decisions. Same old shit all the time. Let's see what people are saying here. Neverworld says he can F off, back up to Rangers or wherever with that post. Honestly, Easy says Ahmad, because he scored that goal against Liverpool, what did he do for this club? Sit down. Michael says if Manchester United decide to sack Erik ten Hag, who will replace him? Yeah, we just answered that one, Michael, a few moments ago. I don't think there's any real candidates out there that we could realistically go out and get, especially when Barcelona, Bayern Munich and Liverpool are going to be looking for managers as well. Party Pooper says, do you think Garnacho will be dropped next game? I don't think he should be. I would rather drop Marcus Rashford, to be honest with you. What I would be doing if I was Erik ten Hag is I'd be calling Garnacho into my office on Monday morning. First thing Monday morning, I'd be bringing him into my office before training, and I would be saying, look, you're a young man. You cannot be doing that, okay? Obviously, you're young, you've made a mistake. You cannot be doing that. Look, that picture, give me the impression that there's a good relationship between Erik ten Hag and Garnacho. He liked a stupid tweet that he shouldn't have liked. Erik ten Hag will probably sit down with him this morning, is what I would be doing anyway, and saying, don't do that again. Look, you've made a mistake. Let's move on. You're the future of this club, so on and so forth. And I think it could be managed quite easily, to be honest with you. And and you move on, and he starts the next game, and you probably, I would drop Marcus Rashford, and I would probably be doing the same with Amad Diallo. I would be sitting him down and saying, listen, if you want game time, putting up emojis like that is not going to help your chances of doing that. Now let's move on. Work hard in training this week, and you'll be in the squad to play, or you'll be in the team to play in an FA Cup semi-final on the weekend. That's what I would be doing, and I'm sure Erik Ten Hag will be doing something like that. Danny says, I don't agree with players hitting social media to call out the manager. It's so unprofessional. Times players need to shut up and start playing well. Tony says, Alejandro Garnacho is too good for the right wing. Then bring in Elise and sell Anthony. Well, Anthony is another one that we do have to talk about as well, guys. Because there were reports suggesting that Anthony was... had a falling out with Erik Ten Hag. But look, Rob Dawson in ESPN said Manchester United have dismissed suggestions that Anthony was left out of the squad for the game against Bournemouth because of a disagreement with Erik Ten Hag. By all accounts, Anthony was injured. He picked up an injury on Friday. One source says United are unhappy with speculations that Anthony was left out because of a row with Ten Hag over playing time. United sources insisted he wasn't able to participate against Bournemouth because of an injury picked up in training on Friday, which meant he could not finish the session. Other reports suggested as well that... but what was the other? Sorry, I had another report open there. I can't really remember what it was. But nonetheless, this is nice. If it is true, then, for example, if Anthony did fall out with Erik Ten Hag over his game time, first and foremost, I don't think he really has any basis to be arguing over his game time, given the fact that his performances have been, quite poor this season, and quite poor last season as well. And second of all, if it is untrue, then I don't think it's anything us as fans need to worry about, because Ten Hag and Anthony will go, do you hear all that noise on social media, or on, in the media about us potentially falling out? They'll be laughing at it in training. I don't think it's something we need to worry about. Anthony is on thin ice at the moment at Manchester United, and there has been certain reports suggesting that United are going to probably try and cash in on him in the summer. So if he has fallen out with Erik Ten Hag, it will probably make it easier to sell him in the summer. If he hasn't fallen out with Erik Ten Hag, and this is all noise coming from the media, then Ten Hag and Anthony will just be laughing about it, and it'll have no impact on the negativity of the squad. It'll just be all of us talking about it, and they'll just be laughing at it, secretly behind the scenes. So I don't see this as being a really big concern. I would like that it hasn't happened. I hope it hasn't happened, and I hope Anthony is available for the weekend, because I would be playing him on the right wing on Sunday against Coventry. And I would be playing Garnacho on the left wing and take Rashford off. I do think Anthony's performances, like his performance against Chelsea, was a man of the match in my opinion. Besides obviously Garnacho getting the 2 goals, I thought Anthony was fantastic. And I was disappointed that he didn't subsequently play in the Liverpool game the following Sunday. And he may be and of course he would be disappointed with that. Any player would be. But there's no need to be giving out and sulking about it. Just keep working hard. Again, look, I think that's probably one of the decisions that Erik Ten Hag has made that didn't help him. I think, given the inconsistencies of the Manchester United squad this season, I think when you do have a player that puts in a really good performance, I think we have to start them the following game, because we're lacking confidence in so many areas in this squad at the moment that if you do have a player that plays well, just play him the next game, because he's probably going to be the most confident player in the squad, But I do understand different games against different teams mean you need different tactics and different, maybe personnel for certain areas. So look, I'm not overly concerned about this Anthony story. Like I said, if it is true that he has fallen out with Erik Ten Hag, then brilliant. It'll make it easier for us to get rid of him in the summer. If it's not, then look, we just move on to the next game, and hopefully he's not injured and available for the game against Coventry. Now look, talking about Erik Ten Hag in general, there has been a lot of talk about his future and whether he will actually be Manchester United manager in the summer or in next season. Fabrizio Romano has been speaking about it, and he has said that Erik Ten Hag's situation at United is absolutely open. Results between now and the end of the season is going to be important for him to save his job. I think if that is the case, then he's a goner. He is gone. between, you know, Ineos wanting and judging him on performances between now and the end of the season, and players just really throwing in the towel and writing off the season, writing off the Premier League more than anything else, then I think he's in big trouble. Because players, you know, quite clearly have thrown in the towel again. And that's 2 seasons in 3 years now we've seen players throw in the towel. And it's just not good enough. We've seen it with Rangnick. Players completely threw in the towel under Ralph Rangnick, and season was over. Completely stopped playing for him. Completely just, you know, one foot was on the beach, ready for the season to end, ready for their summer holidays. And that was only the season before last. And now we're seeing it happening again. It's not good enough. And I think that's another reason why we should be looking at Erik ten Hag given more time. Because the mentality that's festered within this squad is quite clearly not good enough. Quite clearly not good enough. But Ornstein, who is completely up there with the most reliable of sources, says there is no decision so far from Ineos on Ten Hag. They are going to consider his future in the coming weeks and months. They are working with him at the moment, and he is privy to plans for the transfer window, although his situation is in the balance. So look, it's quite clear that Erik ten Hag has a lot of work to do between now and the end of the season to save his job. I hope he keeps his job, and I hope we gut that squad. It's a massive summer for Manchester United when it comes to the transfer window, when it comes to sales and recruitment. It's huge. Now, not getting into the Champions League, which we won't, is going to be, I suppose, a stumbling block for recruiting players in the summer. However, you know, it looks like Wilcox is going to be in place before the transfer window starts. It looks like Barada is going to be in place. Dan Ashworth is probably going to take a little bit longer. So we need a big summer. We need a big summer in terms of transfers. I would like to think that Erik ten Hag, and I think the most positive way of having a good summer transfer window is to keep Erik ten Hag and allow him to be involved in negotiations with Omar Barada and with Jason Wilcox and with Dave Brailsford and whoever else is involved in recruitment in the summer, because it adds another person into that can help. And I think that's another reason why maybe Erik ten Hag should potentially keep his job. Michael says, if you were Manchester United manager, Jack, who would you place Marcus Rashford with? I don't know. I think we've got a ready-made replacement in Alejandro Garnacho. So I think you probably replace somebody on that right-hand side, whether it be a Michael Elise or somebody like that. You know, I wouldn't be against him. But again, that's for, like, I'm not going to say who I want and because I don't really delve deep into, you know, young up and coming players throughout Europe. When names surface that are linked with United, then I'll take a look at them. Danny says, as a Man United fan, it breaks my heart what's happening to the club. We are such a mess at the moment. We need such a big rebuild. Michael says, for FA Cup semi-final against Coventry City, Marcus Rashford needs to be dropped. He doesn't deserve to wear the United badge. He's a total disgrace. And Tony says, if Erik ten Hag continues playing Rashford with his poor performances, he will be sacked because Ole Gunnar is just going to be playing Harry Maguire regularly with poor performances like Solskjaer did. There we go. Guys, we'll leave it there. Look, it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks for Manchester United, it has to be said, and we'll be here to cover it all. We will be back tonight to do the again, our news show, any other news updates, and we'll go in depth with some of the stories that I didn't cover. I want to talk a little bit about Ivan Toney as well, so we'll talk about that tonight at 8 o'clock. If you are new to the channel, hit subscribe. If you are a new subscriber, I see some new names in the chat, which is great, like Tony is there. I've seen Easy there as well. Guys, if you are new to the channel, do make sure you're hitting the notification bell as well. You will get notified anytime we go live. So yeah, we'll be back tonight at 8 o'clock. Of course, we do these morning news shows every morning at 10 o'clock as well. So hit subscribe, hit a like on the video, guys, as well. If you haven't done so, hit the thumbs up button on the way out. It does help the chat, or does help the channel an awful lot. But like I said, I'll be back tonight from 8 o'clock. Hope you can all join me then. And have a great day. See you in a bit.